And joining me now is Kęstutis Budrys, Foreign Minister of Lithuania. And sir, welcome to our set and welcome to Washington.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. President Trump has said he is not willing to provide Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. What is your concern about that? And do you think those munitions are necessary for Ukraine to win the war?
There are two aspects to this issue. First of all, Ukraine needs long-range fires to target those defense industry complexes and factories that produce drones, that produce ammunition, missiles that are used in attacks against Ukraine. That's number one. And Ukraine is producing themselves a lot of also long-range drones and increase their own capabilities. But anyways, Tomahawks, that's the system that you cannot compare to anything that Ukraine is producing. Of course, they need it. There is another aspect to this issue. That is the political initiative that United States then take overall in this strategic situation. And that's another time when President Trump has the opportunity to move the table and to force Putin to adapt the situation, in contrary from what was happening so many years now before this. And we should use this opportunity, and President Trump has to use this opportunity also as the political element, not only as the military tool for Ukraine to increase their positions on the battlefield.
A former NATO Secretary General had talked about the Ukraine-Russia conflict as the potential for forever war. We're now 4 years in. There were times when people thought Russia would be able to prevail in a very short window of time. Clearly, that has not been what played out. Do you have concerns about this slipping into forever war if there is not something that changes the dynamic?
With those capabilities rising of Ukraine, with new technologies, with drones that Ukraine is producing in millions right now, and target them so effectively against enemy, stopping Russia from advancing in the speed that they would love to. So it's very incremental progress that Russia is showing. I see the opportunity for the next year to reach the point when Ukraine will be able, stopping Russian forces, fix the front line, increase attacks on deep in the country on the targets, military industrial complex, and maybe that would create the momentum to agree on ceasefire first and then to settle this conflict. Maybe that would be the opportunity. We have to continue supporting Ukraine first, providing the ammunition and weapons that they need, use the instrument that we created, European money, American products, Ukraine needs it, and also do the other things in preparation for Ukraine for the after-war period. We will have to assist them in building the functioning state.
After so much destruction. There have also been incursions in airspace from Russia. And how do you see that happening, where there is potential for spillage into NATO areas, into your country, Lithuania? Are you concerned about Russia going beyond the boundaries of Ukraine?
Those incidents that we had in Lithuania, they really ring the bell also for NATO to react. Lithuania was one of the first countries that were affected by drones that were used in attacks against Ukrainian targets. They were crossing Belarus and landed in Lithuania. One of them this July was explosives that landed in Lithuania. That is not normal, and it cannot be accepted. We also had the fighter jets violating our airspace. That was also with Estonian airspace and with drones in Poland. That is a problem. And it showed us that our deterrence for the peacetime is not working. Russia is not taking precaution and measures to prevent this from happening. So what NATO did, reacted with additional Operation Eastern Sentry, increased the presence of fighter jets in Poland, ground-based also systems in the Baltic countries, with additional helicopters, and we see the result. 2 months, there are no intrusions now in our airspace by the drones. It shows that this is something that works. This is the fast reaction and also the bold reaction, and we shouldn't be afraid of escalating with Russia. Otherwise, we won't stop them. Not
be afraid of escalating. So do you think there is more that NATO and Europe need to do right now or can do right now?
We should learn from these successful cases and good lessons. That was the Baltic Sea and the disruption of our undersea infrastructure. With increased exposure, with increased the number of NATO vessels in the Baltic Sea, we stopped these activities when our cables were cut off, when our gas pipeline was also cut off. And also we should learn from the lesson with the drones. When we fasted, when we were fast with our decisions, when we were, in solidarity and unity as the NATO, when we showed Russia that we are not afraid and we are not afraid to escalate, and we showed the limit. You cannot violate our land and our airspace, because otherwise you are touching the real military escalation, and you would want to prevent this from happening. And we made it. So for the future situations, they will repeat. Russia will weaponize something else. Yes. They will try to test our boundaries, but we now know what works.
Mr. Foreign Minister, I hope you have successful meetings while you're visiting the United States. And thank you so very much for your time today. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much.